All right, everyone. Hello. This is CD Mangaka, and the Ninja Gaiden 2 Black Balance Patch notes have just been dropped by Team Ninja. So this is pretty much a live reaction and read through of the patch notes, so we can get an idea of what we're getting ourselves into. Yeah, without further ado, let's take a gander at it. So first things first, additional content, New Game Plus. They added the ability to begin a new game on a difficulty level you've previously cleared with the weapons and Nimpo you obtained in your previous playthrough already unlocked. When starting a new game this way, your weapons and Nimpo will be reverted to level 1. So another way to play the game. So if you beat like warrior mode, mentor mode, you can do a new game plus and basically start with everything. It's just reset to level 1 so you can take on fights in some new ways. I kind of like this one a lot actually, just because outside of playing through like the story mode where you just don't have all the weapons unlocked yet. The only other way to really play through the game was to play the chapters in chapter challenge mode where you have everything just maxed out upgraded. So I kind of like it. It just adds a new way to play the game. Might be something I mess around with a bit just so I'm like, oh, what weapon do I want to try to speed run up in levels, right? Kind of mess around with that. They've added a photo mode into the end game options. That'll actually be really cool to mess around with for the people who like that stuff. Oh, yes. Actually, bro, this is cool. Ability to hide projectile weapon. Added a show projectile weapon option under game settings, the option menu, which allows you to hide your projectile weapon while it's carried on your back. This was one grievance I had ever since Sigma was a thing, or Sigma 2 at least, where once you get the bow and arrow, like it was a permanent costume adjustment to Ryu, and you would always see the bow and arrow on his back. And that was something that you didn't have to worry about in Gaiden 2 because you would actually switch what projectile weapon that you had, right? You could go incendiary shuriken, you could go with the bow and arrow, you could go with the windmill shuriken. So there was always like different things happening there. But once you got the bow and arrow, it was like a permanent costume change to Ryu. So this is actually really nice. Just for like a cosmetic thing. So okay, that's cool. Adjustments. Okay, this is the juicy stuff, right? Lowered the HP of enemies in Chapter 8, City of the Fallen Goddess. So this is Rachel's mission. And this is the same change to Chapter 11, Night in the City of Water, lower the HP of enemies. So this is something that I was kind of anticipating or hoping for, where they're basically buffing the female ninjas. Now, one thing to note, Momiji doesn't get this change, which I think is fine. Like, Momiji was kind of like the best of the girls. She had her Nimpo could kill pretty much any of the human enemies. She had guaranteed limb attacks on her ultimate technique, so she could constantly play like the ultimate chain game, where you could kill enemies, you could then do an ultimate technique, set them up for an obliteration technique, kill them, get an essence, rinse and repeat. You could play that gameplay loop. But with Rachel and Ayane, that was pretty hard to do and very inconsistent. In addition to that, too, like their ultimates just didn't do enough damage for them to be really worth it. So we're gonna have to see how much this HP is lowered in their missions. I guess like in some other modes or some other difficulties, they're probably fine. Because I haven't really compared that one, but maybe their individual levels were a little overtuned. At least in my experience playing them in Master Ninja mode. So I'm curious to see how this will change their playthroughs and make it a little bit easier. Now they've raised the number of enemies in Chapter 13, the Temple of Sacrifice. And they raised the number of enemies in Chapter 14, a Tempered Gravestone. Okay, yeah, so this might be, like, there's a lot of downtime in a lot of these missions with Ryu here. So I'm curious where they increase the enemy numbers here. Like, what does that look like now, you know? So this will make those missions a little harder. But this is also low-key a bit of a buff, too, in a way. Like, yeah, there's going to be more enemies. But because there's more enemies, it means you have more opportunities to absorb essence, which means these can be some huge farming levels, potentially. And I mean, the Temple of Sacrifice, I think I demonstrated it in my playthrough of it, was already a pretty good farming level. Once you get to that last hallway where you fight all the ninjas. Raise the damage dealt by some of Ayane's attacks. That's another good change, too. I just wish they would list what specific ones. We might have to do our own breakdown analysis. But Ayane getting buffs is good, because she was probably the weakest and the worst of the ninja girls. So I'll probably have to do a playthrough. It might just be chapter challenge mode once the patch is live of their respective chapters just to see what's up with that. So hopefully their chapters are a little bit easier. What other changes are there? Bug fixes. Okay, this seems to be like the only changes they're doing. So outside of like increasing the enemy counts in 2 chapters, we're pretty much getting like the same sort of story mode, which I think is fine. I think it's a pretty fun story mode. It's pretty challenging already. Doesn't seem like it's the patch that makes it more like Ninja Gaiden 2, where it's just a bunch of enemy spam. Which you can hate or disagree with it. If you play on PC, the community's definitely come out with mods where you get like that crazy level of enemies from Ninja Gaiden 2. Bugs. Fixed controls where when playing at over 120 FPS or while under high computing load. Okay, so some bugs would happen. Fix an issue where controllers will not vibrate based on computing load or FPS settings. Interesting. Fix bugs that cause the player to go out of bounds during certain chapters. This might be something that targets some speedrun glitches. I don't know how many of those were really found or how many of them were useful. But this would be something where if you see a change like this could very well be a change that means that if you're someone who like wants to speedrun this game, you might want to just down patch to the original patch so that you can use these out of bounds if they're useful ones. If they're useful ones. I personally have no knowledge about this because I haven't really looked into speedrunning this game yet, but that could be something. Fix bugs that made it impossible to progress during certain chapters. I personally haven't run into any of those, but yeah, that's pretty bad. Fix a bug which caused the game to crash during long play sessions. Okay, so those are big ones. Other minor bug fixes. Okay, that's it for the patch. So we're not seeing. Yeah, this is it for additional content. We're not getting the windmill shuriken. We're not getting incendiary shuriken. We're not getting, a rework of the range combat system or really any major adjustments to the overall game balance. So it's very much still going to be a Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 flavor version of the game. But we are going to get easier levels for Rachel and Ayane because Rachel's enemies should be easier to kill. And Ayane is just going to do more damage as well overall. And then 2 of Ryu's missions might be a little more crazy. They might be a little more action-packed. I'm actually very curious to see how this is going to pan out. So, I don't know. I don't hate the patch. I like it. There's a lot of good things in here. I'm very happy with the cosmetic stuff. I think the New Game Plus stuff is a really cool way of giving players a new way to play the game. And I just really have to see what these changes look like. But it's nice to see that the girls are getting buffed. And I think Momiji's fine. Like, I would have liked to maybe see some improvements to her as well, but she was already the best of the girls. So I don't think she needed it. It's good to see Rachel and Ayane get some help in their chapters in the story mode. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's good steps. Don't think they have to change too much more. I am a bit bummed that there isn't a classic Ninja Gaiden 2 mode or anything like that, or the game's not being radically changed to be more like that one. But I feel like this is probably representing like what their design philosophy is currently. It's not about difficulty doesn't come from bunch of random bullshit go. It comes from just the damage of the enemies and playing around that sort of balancing where it's a few enemies, but they're very serious threats. So anyways, I guess what I'll do is I'll probably have to try and play through these chapters. Again, just to see what the changes are and see how that all flows. So I'll update my guide and my playlist with these chapters revisited in them, just to get an idea of how it's all going to go. So yeah, that's my patch notes reaction video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the patch below. Is there things that, did they do everything you wanted to do? Are there things that you wish they did that they didn't do? Let me know things like that, y'all. I'll see you around in the next video.